Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Camps Bay Guy podcast, your go-to podcast for everything real estate related in Cape Town. In today's episode, we have a very special guest on, Richard Hardie. Richard has had such an amazing property journey. He's been in the industry for over 22 years. He started his career in London, working in prestigious agencies and working in places like Mayfair and on Park Lane. He also worked in Guernsey and won awards for best business in Guernsey, as well as in marketing and innovation in the real estate industry. And he is now the owner of Hardie Property in Cape Town, and he's grown such an amazing team and a business here. So I can't wait to get into this episode. I really enjoyed sitting down with Richard. He was one of the first agents I ever worked with in Cape Town, so it was such a great moment for me having him on the podcast. So I really hope you enjoy it as much as I did. Let's get into the show. Richard, you've had an amazing journey in the real estate world, from London to Guernsey and back to Cape Town. Could you share some of the key moments that shaped your career?
Yeah, so definitely Foxtons, where I first started. It was hardcore. You got rewarded with your mini. But you had to work hard. It was 8 till 8 in the office at 8, and you did viewings till 8, and it was the only company that did it. They were very much ahead of themselves and everyone else, and I believe they still are actually. Amazing technology, but yeah, you worked hard. You saw people disappear, you saw people come in, you kept your head down, and you just kept going. And I absolutely loved it. They also had real structure as well. They said you must do this at this time. You were not allowed to waver outside of that. But then I very, very quickly, that was in Wimbledon, I very quickly went up to central London to Chelsea, and I loved it. But then I just sort of and I loved being an agent, and it was great. And I was in Chelsea, which is, SW3, just off Sloane Street, Sloane Square, and it was amazing, and great agents as well. And I met some really amazing people who are still friends, and I've still got those networks as well. But then I sort of super quickly went into management, and then you mentioned Harrods Estates, and this recruitment agent kept on calling me and just saying, we want to interview. And I was like, no. And eventually, like 4 weeks later, I said, okay, I'll come. So they gave me a location, and I went in there, and I remember I was in there for like an hour, and I phoned my dad afterwards, and I said, you're not going to believe this. I think I was like 26 or 27. They want me to set up Harrods Estates on Park Lane, Mayfair. And, I had to go for the whole interview with Mohammed Al Fayed and everything that goes with working for the Harrods brand. And that was amazing. But then I got poached back by my previous company. Wasn't happy there. And then you mentioned Phil Spencer and went into the buying agency. And the buying agency is very significant for me, because that really has given me great skills going forward, because people paid me to find houses for them, and so it wasn't a sales job. So the agents used to love me. They always tell me everything, and if I had a buyer, I was their number one person, and it was great because you advised people, and it was a very fulfilling role, and I got to see some of the most amazing homes and meet some incredible people. I worked for some really incredible, very well-known clients, and that was a challenge. Especially celebrities as well. I worked for a lot of football players, but I had no idea who they were. But yeah, I worked for a lot of celebrities, and that was really, really amazing. I loved it, and that's why now in my job, I still work for a lot of buyers, because I love it. And also, even when I'm selling something, it's never a sale. It's actually just about advising people. So that was a real pivotal part of my career. And then and then I went off to a small line, Channel Islands, Guernsey. Which was also amazing, and then decided to return, as you said, to the birthplace.
Yeah, so I don't actually know the background of how. So you were obviously born in South Africa, but did you grow up, go to school here, or?
I was born in Cape Town because my father was in the Foreign Office, so as kids we were all being born in different countries. So I was born here, but then they loved it so much that we actually stayed here. Well, my mum did, and my dad, carried on in the Foreign Office, so he was in different countries. My mum was here, so I actually grew up here and schooled here till I was 8. But then I was shipped off to boarding school in the UK. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing. Sounds like a lovely childhood. And what made you get into the world of real estate?
I fell into real estate. I actually
Like most people.
I actually started in. I actually did my university degree in tourism and management and economics, and I actually started a fast track course with Marriott in central London. But very quickly I was like, not sure this is what I really want to do. And a friend of mine just said, you should go and work for an estate agent. We used to walk past Foxtons on the tube, and like all these guys are in there like till 8 o'clock at night in their suits, and it was like, you know, I love the energy. So I went and got an interview with Hamptons, Foxtons, both gave me a job. I took the Mini, and that was it. And here we still are. And I always say, and I'm sure you'll find it somewhere, is I love Mondays, because I never ever wake up thinking I don't like my job. And actually the only time I've ever done that was when I was poached back by another company, and I changed it very, very quickly, because it was the first time I'd ever been unhappy. But otherwise, and if I ever have a moment where I'm not happy, I think what's going on, because I love my job.
So you love the industry, love your job.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And how did your international experiences in London and Guernsey shape your perspective on real estate, and what unique insights do you think you brought back to Cape Town from your
So I think, you know, London, I obviously worked in very, very prime areas, and then as the buying agent, I met some very, very influential people, and I guess you can say I put a black book together. Then I went to Guernsey, which again attracts a lot of wealthy people, and then a lot of, you know, advisors, so financial, lawyers, et cetera, et cetera. So that network has also been exceptionally useful to me here, because the world is a small place. And I mean, I know we're going to get onto social media at some point.
Definitely.
But if you take the business side of social media and you look at LinkedIn, you know, I sold something to a guy I knew from London, moved to Singapore, and he bought it unseen in Cape Town because he knew me from then, trusted me. And he said, Rich, I've seen all your marketing. I trust you. Let's talk about the facts and figures. And he bought it. And then he came sit after he'd bought it.
Wow.
You know, once it transferred. So, you know, he was sort of happy. So, and that network has carried with me. So my international pool is massive.
Yes.
And also it's plus with a sort of diplomatic background, you know, my dad was always in Africa, India, wherever. Yeah. You know, I also grew up very international, so I guess my life experience has paved the way as well.
Amazing. So you're like a multicultural, multifaceted,
yeah,
and you've got connections from all around the 100%, world.
So, you know, after school, I spent a year in Malaysia in the jungle. But I met amazing people there as well. You know, I did go to university, but, you know, it's all of those combined.
So how was the experience in the jungle in Malaysia?
Again, we'd need like 2 days to talk about it because it was a phenomenal year. I went to an island called Pankor, which is 3x2. It's mainly Chinese, then 30% Malay, 10% Indian. So you've got all of those cultures. It's a fishing island. And just to give you an idea, the first night going over on the boat, we got stuck on a sandbank in the dark. And there was a Sumatra storm coming in, and I was told to take my trousers off and jump into the water and push this boat. And then we arrived in the jungle, and just, I can't even describe it to you.
Wow.
I was actually a bit of a sort of a manny. But I was also helping this family out. They're an English family, but the kids went to Chinese school. So I used to take these kids on a scooter, 2 of them with me. I used to pick up food on the handlebars. I used to take the boat out, teach them to swim in the sea, and then was living in the jungle. Food was amazing. Got bitten by a snake.
Sure.
Had to have an anti-venom jab.
Wow.
I've got more stories than we can even mention. It was unbelievable. Yeah.
We'll have to get into that one in the next the next podcast.
That's a whole nother podcast.
Cool. And then what made you come back to South Africa in 2016?
So actually, you know what? Almost 10 years prior, I actually wanted to come back, but I was talked out of it by an auntie actually in the north of England, and it was actually good that I didn't, because the rest of that career paved the way for me, just from an experience point of view. And yeah, and my mum's always been here, so she's been here since 1980. They were here prior, but she's been back permanently since 1980. Wow. She was in Greyton, and I just love it. I've always called Cape Town home, and I just felt that I wanted to be here, lifestyle. Mum's here. Yeah, it was always niggling.
Yeah. Awesome.
So,
yeah. Cape Town, I mean, it's, I know a lot of people that are grew up internationally, and they still, they'll go anywhere in the world. They're English or they're German or whatever, they call Cape Town home.
It's that pull.
It's a place.
There's a definite pull.
Yeah. I don't blame you for coming
no
back.
Regrets, yeah.
Awesome. And can you take us through the challenges you faced with Knight Frank in establishing, it must have been, I've worked for a brand that's not as established in an area, and it's very difficult to establish that brand. How did you go about getting that going?
What
challenges did you face?
So that was very challenging, because agency is very different here culturally, and in the UK, agents get salaries. Here it's commission driven, so that does present its challenges. Also, I came in, they were like, who is this guy coming from abroad? And I'm sure the guys at Knight Frank won't mind me saying this, but when I started, people were like, oh, what, Frank Knight? And people calling me Frank. Weren't you with Ann Porter? Are you Ann Porter? And so it was that really tricky transition, and the agents were actually just saying, please do something about this. So then really what it was about, right, what are you doing advertising wise? What are you doing social media wise? Nothing. And I said, listen, you've got to spend to accumulate. We've got to make this international brand sexy in Cape Town. Yes. We're not trying to take over the world. So really, it was just about working with a PR company, working with the marketing, and just, I guess, drip feeding, and starting to sort of drip feed out there. And you talked about consistency in the intro, being consistent. And networking, talking to people, going to London and meeting the Knight Frank agents there, bringing that knowledge back.
Yes.
It was
amazing.
It really spending some money.
Spending money and having a lot of fun. I can imagine.
But it was hard.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, it's always difficult, but must have been rewarding. But obviously
it was challenging. That was challenging.
Yeah. So now, as the founder and director of Hardie Property, what inspired you to establish your own real estate agency?
Okay, so remember that I set up Hardie Property in lockdown.
Yeah.
So I actually went into lockdown not working. And then I was like, right, what are you going to do?
Yes.
And I was like, I didn't want to jump into another corporate. No offense to corporates, but I was just like, I just don't want to do this. And at Living Room in Guernsey, being half of that business, I'd had a taste of it being your own company, being innovative, marketing, creative, freedom, I guess. So I just thought, you know what, I'm just gonna do this myself.
Yeah.
And obviously the name was tricky. What to come up with? Do you call yourself Richard Hardie Property? Hardie Property? Do you not use your name? What do you do? So that was super, super hard. And I almost did it backwards. I actually created the brand, well, not backwards, but I did brand, website, and then I was like, I better actually start telling some people that we've kind of been doing all of this, but we couldn't do anything anyway because we weren't allowed outside of our houses. So when we got the slight go-ahead that agents were going to be allowed to start viewings, that's where I just sort of think I put something on Facebook. I went, just to let you know, this is what I've been doing. And that's kind of where it all started. So, yeah.
Amazing. And you having such a good network.
That's so that's actually what I was afraid of. I was really afraid that I didn't know enough people in Cape Town. Because Cape Town is one of those cities. It's about who you know, etc. So I was really, really scared about that. But within a day, I realized that people were super supportive. And were amazing, actually. And I think I've told you, I did my first deal in 6 days.
Yeah. This podcast is sponsored by Home Loan Junction. Home Loan Junction are a bond originator. And if you don't know what a bond originator is, a bond originator will help you get finance for your next property purchase. They'll go to all the banks, get you the best interest rate so that you don't have to go and barter and they'll make sure that you get the best deal for your next purchase. So if you're a foreigner or a local South African, Home Loan Junction will help you get the best finance for your purchase. Thank you so much to Home Loan Junction for sponsoring the podcast. It wouldn't be possible without you.
I didn't even have an agreement to sell.
Wow.
I was like...
So you just went gung-ho straight. You were just like, I'm going to do this thing. And you just, boom, hit the ground running.
Yeah, and people just started calling me. And they were like, please, can you come and see us? And blah, blah, blah. And I was just okay. And then, first deal in 6 days. And I then approached another agent friend. I went, hi, can I please borrow the structure of your agreement of sale? Unfortunately, she was very kind. She said, absolutely, just get a lawyer to tweak it for you. And that's where we started. And it was, I guess, an organic process because... And then someone said, can you rent this for me? And rentals are amazing. I mean, those carried me through just paying for Property 24 and those kind of things. So, yeah.
Amazing. Well done.
Thanks.
And in a rapidly evolving real estate industry, how does Hardie Property leverage innovations and technology to enhance the client experience and stay ahead of the curve?
Yeah, so I'm always searching to try and be ahead. Sometimes it's nice. I see other ideas. I tend to see them abroad. I don't see them here. So I do like to think that I'm ahead of the curve here. And I guess I know I am when I see everyone else following, and I guess that's flattery. But then you've got to find the next thing. So I'm always trying to be creative. I think for me, the most important thing for me is that when people are using the Hardie Property tool, so let's take a website, is that it's easy for people. It needs to be quick, it needs to be easy, the information is there, it's at hand. And then social media, it's consistent. For my clients, I put their properties, it's international. They're on portals. So I'm competing with the guys who say that they're international companies here because I'm also doing that. So I offer all the stuff internationally and locally, plus massive on social media, and plus always trying to find ways to approach buyers or your market. So let's take that you're marketing something in Steenberg on the golf course. Okay, well let's try and find some golfers. Let's try and find some people who love wine. Let's try and find. So you just every property I get, I sort of look at the circle and I'm like, what can I do rather than just putting it on Property 24 and hoping for the best.
Amazing. So will you literally go and find golfers, or will you go to the golf club and drop some flyers off there? Or how do you?
Or a lot of it's digital.
That?
It's your digital approach.
Okay.
So
if you do a social media campaign, you'll target people.
I always target people.
Okay. Amazing.
No, I always, and there's generally always a campaign behind every property. So I'll always do that. But this is, I'm sure some of you will get onto as well, but that's where you've got to be consistent because I've always been consistent with social media. I've got my favorites, being Instagram.
Everyone loves Instagram.
But I know we met on TikTok, but it's Instagram is definitely my favorite, but I do all the social media for Hardie Property. Wow. So I'm consistent always across all of the platforms. And then we look at each one and we go, which is the right audience, et cetera, because you can take a TikTok and you can take a Twitter, and I almost put those in the same camp. But then certain age groups aren't on Instagram, then certain age groups love Facebook, and certain people aren't on any social media. So then what do you do? So then it's actually maybe pick up the phone, an email, speak to trusted advisors. There's all sorts of things you can do.
100%.
You've just got to actually just do it.
I like your approach. It's super creative. It's it's forward thinking. I like the
You've
idea
got to
of
be
taking that property and saying, okay, who are these buyers? And then seeing, okay, how can we reach those buyers? And then maybe making like a proper marketing plan. I feel like not a lot of agents do that. They just take pictures and they put the property online and hope that somebody's the phone's gonna ring.
And I think a lot of agents also, they hope that the company they work for is going to do it for them. And
Yeah.
invariably that's not going to happen. You know, you've got to be successful yourself. You can't, and the problem is the bigger the company you work for, the more generic their advertising is going to be. Again, no offense, but the bigger the company, they can't look after every single individual.
Yeah.
I can look after everyone who works at Hardie Property because it's me, and then I've got 2 teams and 1 individual, so we're boutique. So I can look after everything that they want, but I also say to people, do your own thing as well.
Yeah.
But I don't force people to use a certain
there,
platform. If you don't like Instagram, don't use it.
Definitely.
You know,
do the things you like.
Because it's going to be slow, it's going to be painful, and you're not going to enjoy it. I love Instagram.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm quick. I'm waiting for someone on a viewing. View shot, thank you, done. Link to the property. You know, but it's quick for me.
Yes.
It's done in 30 seconds, but I love
Yeah.
it. I absolutely love it. So I never force people to do things that they don't want to do. It's like I say to the ladies who work for me who do like the Rhonda Bosch, that kind of market. They're not really on socials, but they love walking their dogs. So go to the park every day for an hour. You know, meet all of the people who are going to sell houses in the park with their dogs. You know, you got to suit it to who you are and what you enjoy.
For sure. Otherwise, it's, as you said, it's not you're not going to love your Mondays then. Definitely.
No, exactly.
And I think you're the agent in our market at the moment that probably does the most collaborative deals. Could you just shed a little bit more light on the importance of these collaborations and partnerships in providing that service to your clients? And also, like, there's such a view that, you know, you shouldn't share your commission and you should protect your commission and stuff like that. And a lot of us, that when we get trained to protect our commission, especially in South Africa. Don't just give it away.
Yeah.
So what's your view on that? And do you think those collaborations have boosted your business in a big way?
So I believe the latest figure is, and we're 3.5 years old. I believe in that time we've done 32 collaborative deals.
Wow.
So, and that's either, and again, it's mainly myself, just because obviously it was me at the beginning, and it's been predominantly myself, but it's always about collaboration. There is only one property that I did not collaborate on, simply because it was highly sensitive. I knew the amount of interest I was going to get, and I kind of just had to control it. So, because it was in the media, et cetera, that was just one thing. But every time I go to a client's house, I tell them, you give me your property, and if Josh calls me tomorrow and says, I've got a buyer, please can I bring them? Absolutely. I've even just told, and I'm taking something on next week, which is a really nice house. I've already told another agent about it.
Wow.
Because why not have the deal?
Exactly. Yeah.
What goes around comes around, and it's much better for the client. And if you look at the bigger picture, you will gain more, earn more if you collaborate with people, because then the relationship is open on both sides.
Yes.
They'll come to you because it's about the relationships that we have.
Yeah.
So I open from day dot, always.
Amazing. Wow. And how's that? That's almost like a flip on the UK market, because in the UK, I've never heard of like the collaborations really happening. It's more of just
they do in London. So I agree with you in the rest of the market. So in London, they always they keep it closed at the beginning, and then they've got a central system, and it says we're going to open this up and we'll offer a percentage. But you are right. Yeah. There are people in the London market who are trying to change that, and actually I saw a post this last week. And you know that the playing field in South Africa has really, really changed. I would say in the last 2 years, the majority of agents are are prepared to share, whether they're corporate or not corporate. The problem again is you go to the agents who are working for a big company who have rules, and then say they're in a partnership with people.
Yeah.
Then it gets a bit tricky because then they start slicing it. And they go, hold on a minute, I've got to split with them, and and it's. And
Rather than focusing on the
see it, but still,
Yeah.
you should have the interest of the client. So it's so unusual now for me to come across someone who isn't prepared to share. And I even tested an agent the other day, and I went, I'll give you 90-10.
Yo.
And they said no. And I was like, wow.
Yo.
Wow. That for me, I'm going to be really honest, that's really short-sighted.
Yeah. Get the
because,
deal done.
Because also, I was looking after the buyer. I just want the buyer to have the right property.
Yes.
That's all I wanted. I just wanted them to have it. So I said, fine. I said, I know you've just taken it on, but let me through the door 90-10. And they said no. And I have to say, I was quite flabbergasted. I was just like, okay. But I would say that the majority of agents now are really open to sharing, and they're starting to understand the benefits of it.
Amazing. That's great. Well, well done on that, and
Thanks.
all those deals you've done. And I think it's
and we've been
we've
been on that journey as well.
A couple of those, yeah. So it's been awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks. So I want to get into the social media stuff, because I know that's what you and I love, and we connected through social media. So I remember you saying that you don't really do any cold calling or canvassing, and why is this the case?
Because it gives me the EBGBs.
So how do you get?
So,
how do you?
So the UK culture is you're not allowed to call people anyway. You can write them nice letters, or you can put flyers through people's doors. But in the UK, you're not actually allowed to do it. And the culture is that if you want to market your house, you call the agent. Okay, so that's what I'm used to.
So how did you get listings in the UK? Would people just call you?
People call the brand,
Yeah.
and there's either a valuer there. Remember, it's salaried. So there's a manager, there's a valuer, there's and then
so
the agents are there then you go, right, we've got this property, go for it. But you're salaried, plus you get something on top. So it's a very different culture.
I see.
So it's never been in my it's never been natural for me to call people. So then when I came over here and they said, oh, we call people, I was like, oh my Lord. But I didn't come in as an agent. I didn't have to do that.
Yeah.
So then when I set up on my own, then I was really scared. I was like, because it's, I can't bear the thought of it. And
sure.
I still think I can say that I have never, in the 3.5 years of Hardie Property, I have not made a phone call. I will admit I've sent about 6 WhatsApp messages, but that was just the same development because I sold something in 5 days.
I see.
And I just thought, this is crazy. All these people want to live in here.
Yeah.
And I might send a few more messages to people. But if I'm being completely honest, I'm so busy that I actually don't get round to that, and I don't have the time to do it. And I also don't want someone else to do it for me, because that person is not me.
Yeah. No, that makes sense.
It's not going to come across in the same way. And the amount of clients who say to me, oh, God, I get a call. Sorry. I get a call from, X every month, but it's just the PA, or it's just someone who's employed to do it. And they don't like it.
It's not personable.
They don't like it. So why would I put myself into that camp? I get why people do it. I really, really do. 100%. But for me, it's a no-go.
Not your thing. So how are you getting your business? I know, is it all through social media?
So,
or
no.
Is it all through network?
So 85% is referral, network. Wow. But the social media has definitely gained some serious momentum. I've had quite a lot of sales and rentals through, actually getting the properties. So, and that's really, really sort of picked up momentum. And I guess it's that coupled with, reputation. The more business that you do, the more people speak. Cape Town's a small place. Again, consistency with social media. You got to love it. You got to enjoy it. And look, I guess shouting about your success stories. I'm not afraid to shout about our success stories, because otherwise, how do people know? I don't really do flyers. I don't call people.
Yeah.
I'm not a big one for going out. So how else are people going to know? So it's I guess it's the chat and it's the Instagram
Amazing.
mainly following.
So this podcast is sponsored by Van Zyl Kruger Attorneys. Van Zyl Kruger Attorneys have been my number one supporter since the first day that I started in the real estate industry. They've always been there for my clients when critical questions around the transfer of a property have come up. And I'm super grateful to them for sponsoring this podcast. If you are looking for a transferring attorney on your next sale, please consider Van Zyl Kruger Attorneys. They won't let you down. So, thanks again to Van Zyl Kruger Attorneys for sponsoring the podcast. And, it wouldn't be possible without them. What strategies are you kind of focusing on when it comes to social media? Is there a specific thing that you do? I don't know if you're willing to share any of your...
I'm always willing to share. Listen, knowledge is power. And actually, I don't have a mentor, but there is someone that I respect highly in the UK. And he always says, why wouldn't you share your knowledge with people? Why not?
Sure.
So I'm a firm believer in that. So there's not really any secrets with me, and people are probably writing down notes now, just gone and got a pen. But again, I'm sorry to use this word, but it's super, super key. It's consistency.
Yes.
As I said, I do all the social media for Hardie Property, so I just make sure that it's always there. Yeah. And then for my personal self, if I think it's of interest to people, I don't like to ram it down people's throats. Yeah. I just make sure that I'm always doing stuff there, and it's static shots, it's reels, I'm always doing stories as I go along. You've got to make it interesting for people as well.
Definitely.
It's got to be dynamic, it's got to be interesting. I guess a bit of your personal stuff thrown in there as well. Obviously, Hardie Property page is very professional, but the stuff that I do, I'm a human being. I like to go to Delbrook and swim in the pool there. So you're always going to see that. That's part of lifestyle in Cape Town.
For sure.
And that's another thing. It's actually selling. You're selling a lifestyle.
For sure.
We are dangling a carrot all the time in front of all of those people who are not in Cape Town, going, look at this amazing place that we live in. But as to strategy, I do spend money on it. I do the odd paid promotion here and there. But I just make sure it's interesting and it's varied, and I think it's also the nature of the properties that you take on. It's you'll gain an audience. Whether it's a penthouse, or it's a Dutch gable, or it's a Backoven apartment looking over the sea, or a bungalow in Clifton. So sure. It's variety.
And do you think social media is going to play a bigger role as we go? As the years go on,
I don't see how it can't.
But with more sale, you spoke of someone buying a property reached out to you on LinkedIn. Do you think people are actually going to go on to, let's say, Instagram or something, and then they'll message the agent and be like, can we set up?
I think there's more and more people following companies, individuals, hashtags. I know the hashtags that you follow, because every time I put them in, it says Camps Bay Guy follows this. Yeah. So I know that, I don't sound weird. I know you're looking, but agents are. But I want the agents to look, because I want them to see what I've got, so they can phone me and go, Rich, I've got a buyer or a tenant or whatever.
That's the collaboration side of things.
100%. And I think there's definitely more people following, or you're prominent in their feeds or whatever, and they'll reach out to you and go, listen, I'm looking, please tell me, please put me on your list. There's a lot of that as well. So the more you put yourself above and you're there for people to see, they're going to approach you.
Yes.
If you're hiding, no one's going to know. You're just a number in a company, so you've got to keep doing it. So I don't see how social media can go away. Obviously, there's always going to be variations of social media. There's this platform will pop up, something new will pop up, and then you're just like, oh, another platform.
Another thing I have to post on,
like Telegram or something like that, or Threads. Threads exploded, and we were all like, oh no, another platform I've got to put stuff on. I still do for the company, but I don't really do it for myself, because you don't really get
Not
anything of
interested
it.
in it.
No, and also you don't really get anything of it as well. So yeah.
Amazing, because I think most agents, when they start off in the industry, a lot of agents think, oh, I'm going to post a few things on social media and I'm going to sell a property through social media and I'm going to get listings because I just blasted it out to all my followers and everything. But then, that dies down after a while. So how do you keep up that consistency, and where do you find the value in using social media? Like when things aren't happening, obviously things happen for you, but how do you think you can kind of like keep that up if nothing's happening?
But you've got to put the effort in.
Yeah.
So you've got to start it and you've got to carry on. If you stop, nothing, it won't happen. I know that, like, say in the winter months here, I will take my foot off the gas a little bit.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
Because I'm so busy. But I love it. I wouldn't have it any other way. But I do take my foot off the gas just slightly in winter because it's a quieter market. I can immediately see that things slow down because my energy, and I believe in this, what you put into stuff is what you get out. Yes. What you put into the universe, you get out. 100%. So it's if I'm putting the energy in, I'm going to get the energy back because people are feeding off it. If you're not there, people won't have nothing to feed off. And so that's what I say. I used to do training before. I used to say to people, as you said, very enthusiastic. They start and they go, oh yeah, I've done one post and it's amazing and I'm going to sell it. And then they get busy and then they go, oh no, I'm not really interested in social media.
Yeah.
And it doesn't go anywhere. It's the same with all of the people who come into the industry because they go, ooh, look at him. He must be making lots of money. And it's really easy, and I'm going to join X, and I'm going to go, oh, I'm an agent now. And then there's just this huge tumbleweed, just going like this because people are like, I don't care that you're an agent. I've got Sally who I know John here, I know Josh here, I know Richard here. Why would I come and use you when you're brand new, you've got no experience, and people are like, and they're like, oh wow, this is not quite it, and then they have to start cold calling.
Then the cold calling.
Then they have to start cold calling and doing that awful thing. But it's not easy. But I was very lucky because I knew a lot of people, but that was from before, and I've worked super, super hard. And when I wake up in the morning, I'll happily do social media at 5 o'clock in the morning. Tonight, I'll do social media. In the day, I'm doing it, but I love it. So it's a huge advantage. I love doing it. So it's a bit unfair on people who don't. It's a key thing for me.
Amazing. Yeah, I love it as well. And I think I think people that are using it now are going to see the benefits even more.
But I mean, you must have noticed, and I mean, you're one of the people that I watch, and there's a few key people that it's now it's the cool reels. It's now bringing yourself into the picture if you feel confident about doing it. It's not just a static da-da-da. It's you. It's introducing. It's you've got to keep it interesting for people. But you've got to spend money.
You've definitely. We spend a lot of money on our social media.
So do I.
And you've got to. Otherwise, because the quality you can see now, you can distinguish. I'm all about that quality, and you can distinguish an oak that's just walked in and his camera's halfway and it has to be, if you want to be selling, especially in this market.
And you can tell now that something's not done with a gimbal, or and you can tell the quality, and people can see that quality, and they're now benchmarking you with that quality. I mean, it amazes me how many listings don't have videos. I have a video, a reel, the photographs for it, portrait, landscape. You've got to think of everything. You've got to think about all of those things. It amazes me. And then when you get a listing up, and invariably it goes around your group of agents, go, God, dude, look at this. It's like, have you seen this listing? You go, how on earth could you put that out to the marketplace? And how did your company allow you to put that out to the marketplace? It's mind-boggling. When I started working in 2016, I can tell you now, 90% of photographs were being taken by the agent.
On their cell phone.
Or with a camera.
Yeah, with the camera.
And I came in to Knight Frank and I went, no more.
Yeah.
No, it's all got to be professional. And then very quickly, within a year, you saw almost every company doing professional photographs. And that's what I mean about staying ahead of the curve, because I saw it. then it was videos, then it's but now it's like, to do all of this stuff, it actually costs money.
And it's,
So are you going to pay for it, or is your company going to pay for it, and are they going to do it for you? That's a decision you've got to make.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, you've got to do it. I mean, every agent, I think every agency's now got a retainer with a photographer. It's just standard. That's added onto the cost.
Yeah.
So I think it's time that we start wrapping it up. And I really appreciate chatting to you. So the real estate industry can be really daunting. And what advice do you have for young people that are looking to get into the industry? What would you say to them? Yeah.
Sure, that's a good question.
Yeah.
Because you get approached by people all the time. So I think go and work for someone who's going to look after you. I don't think it's necessarily great to be thrown into the deep end. I think get someone who's going to look after you, and approach someone where you like their style and you like what they do and it ticks the boxes for you. Know who your network is, your parents' network, know what your network is, and don't think that you have to take over the world. Yeah. That's also what a lot of people do. Start small. If you've been living in student accommodation in Rondebosch, start with Rondebosch. With students, with whatever. If your parents live in Newlands and you know them well, start in Newlands. Start the circle like that. Keep going with that circle, and that circle will naturally get bigger. But if you try to be here, there, and everywhere, it's not going to work unless you're incredibly tenacious.
Yeah. And
9 out of 10 will fail. It's a very, very hard industry to get into, and I think you and I, people like you and I, potentially make it look a bit glamorous.
Yes, definitely.
And others definitely make it look glamorous, but they haven't got to glamour.
Yes.
By just it happening. It doesn't just happen. You've got to graft, and you've got to really think strategically about who you go and work for, who is looking after you, and how you are going to get properties and not rely on other people.
For sure, 100%. I think that's great advice. Thanks. And then what inspires you and motivates you every day?
Well, obviously I'm super proud that I've got this brand that other people seem to want to work for, which I'd never really envisaged, and that we've come quite a long way in a short period of time. I didn't quite see that as well, but it's been natural growth. So I'm super pumped by, I guess... Yeah, look, I'll give you one example. Yesterday, I had a meeting with someone, and they said, "Oh, my partner's friend follows you on Instagram, and has just seen what you've been doing, and it's really fantastic. And we know other people who've used you. We looked at your website; it's amazing. And then we want to meet you. We had a really great meeting, and I felt it's actually giving me goosebumps now. I actually felt so enthused by that afterwards, and I was like, wow, that's actually what it's about.
Wow.
So I will very happily get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, go to the gym, get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, work, and then go to the gym, whatever, make sure you do your exercise. And I think it's also freedom.
Yeah.
It's freedom to do what I want to do, what I want to do with the company, et cetera, et cetera. But I just get a real buzz from the feedback. And now that we've sort of really found ourselves in the market and people are going, oh, no, I know Hardie Property. Oh, no, I know Richard. And it's been 3.5 years for Hardie Property. And I'm now really sort of, reaping those benefits. And, 3 years is a key period for people. I always used to say that in training as well. You've got to give yourself 3 years. And I'm now really, really feeling that. And I just get really enthused by people's feedback and compliments and, feedback about the brand, et cetera, et cetera. So, I guess that's what it is. But also, I love property. I love people. That's why I don't want it taken away. That's why I love
You love that
I
sales role.
I do actually, and I haven't done it since in my early 20s.
Sure.
And I'm loving being an agent who sells, values, meets people, does the deal, and sees fantastic properties. So
Stunning.
Yeah.
And is there anything in the future? Do you have any vision for what Hardie Property is going to be in the next 10 years? Or do you want to just keep growing organically?
No, because I didn't really have the vision of where we are now.
Yes.
But again, it's all organically happened. Anyone who's working for Hardie Property came to Hardie Property on their own steam. You know, I never asked anyone to come here, and I'm absolutely delighted with the people who we've got. It's amazing. It's not to say we don't need a few people in some key areas, but at the same time, that will just happen naturally. But to be honest with you, I don't really have a plan. We just keep going. We just keep busy, and we just keep selling and renting, and there's nothing else you can do but just keep working hard and enjoying it, really. And who knows where Hardie Property will go.
Amazing. Okay, awesome. Well, thanks so much, Richard,
No,
for
welcome. Thank you.
coming on the pod. And you're one of our first guests, and I'm honored to have you here. And it's been a really good conversation, but I feel like we barely touched the surface of a few things. So,
and we've got to do a Malaysia one now as well.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to get you on again. Can't wait.
No, cool.
Can't
Thank you
wait
so
for
much.
the next one.
No,
Pleasure.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Cheers. Thanks, guys.